just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if they're sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
That's right. This is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 95. Mike Biseglia, Alex Benesowitz. Alex isn't here today, but we'll talk about that in a minute. You can find this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and all those good places. Also on YouTube. Check us out. Watch the video. Give some thumbs up and tweet us a picture of the video where you're watching. We always want to see that at Mike Delivers Pod. And at Nick Central is not here. That's because he is on his way getting ready for his honeymoon. He'll be out the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to bring in some fun different guests, fun different celebrities that are all part of this Nets world. We'll do that. Today is Dolan J. Trump. The Nets are 20-8 in first place in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks sliding away. They're 12-16. Dolan J. Trump, how are you?
Mike, it's great to be back. You've done really well. I've seen since you've had me on, which seems like a long time ago. You guys are constantly ducking me. Yep. So
first time we had you on, I mean, it was back in episode number 2, believe it or not. So this is episode number 95. You've probably, what do you think you've joined, like 5 or 6 times in total?
No,
you want to say
this might be my third. I was on that one. I was on for the Tibbs hiring, where I took my victory lap on endorsing him and getting him as we hired him as head coach, because I remember Alex, I think, was upset at first about the hiring, and I was defending Tibbs. And I think I was on one other time, maybe right. Oh, it was after game 1 of the playoffs against the Hawks.
Well, maybe that's a good place to start, because maybe Alex was right about Tibbs. I mean, the Knicks right now at 12-16, and we'll talk about the Nets and missing it literally half of their squad right now and they had an awesome win the other night versus the Toronto Raptors. But the Knicks right now at 12-16, it's just a mess in a lot of ways. And let's slide away. I want to start with this. We'll talk about Tibbs in a second, but I do want to make this a point. The Steph Curry thing, and Curry getting the NBA record for 3-pointers made. And I don't know about you, Dolan, but the disaster that, in my opinion, was the overhypeness to get to, like, the love affair for Steph Curry. And you know this because everybody was giving shit to the Nets a month ago when there were Warrior fans in there chanting and hollering. I think if you're a Knicks fan and you were making fun of the Nets for what happened in their arena, you should be ashamed after what happened at the Garden last night.
Well, actually, what people aren't reporting, Mike, is that most of our fans were in health and safety protocol. So most of the arena weren't even Knicks fans.
I mean, come on. It's a little hypocritical to be when you have all of these, let's poo-poo on the Nets. Let's poo-poo on the Warriors. All the fans are here. And then you get into the arena. And I don't know about you, but it seemed a little bit over the top, the amount of accolades and love that was given to Steph Curry. It's an awesome achievement. It's great. But it almost felt like the Knicks organization prides themselves on knowing what good basketball is and appreciating history. And it's like they almost were like a self-fulfilling prophecy, as opposed to being like, okay, congratulations, let's move the fuck along.
Right. I agree. It should have just been, and I think, what was it? Tibbs was the one who called the timeout right afterwards to give him his moment. I believe that's what it was. Fine. You want to give him an extended, so you can get a quick round of applause, but there didn't need to be this huge, I don't know, this whole disruption in the game. And then at the end with Spike Lee getting down, he's like dropping down to his knees and like, what is going on? So I don't know. You know what? I'm knocking on the doorstep of 15,000 Twitter followers. When that eventually happens, that milestone, which no one has ever seen before for a parody account, I better get that type of celebration.
Let me give you Alex's tweets. I want to make them represented here. He wrote at Nick Central, said, Knicks fans at this game cheering and jumping up and down for Curry's record-breaking 3 should be embarrassed. applaud it, sure, but the level of cheering is ridiculous. He then also went on to say, you can't make fun of Net fans when MVP chants happen, but then get mad at me when I'm mad at Knicks fans for cheering Steph at the level they cheered him, and for letting this happen at the Garden too. Be consistent. I see it, and it kind of just breaks down into this like underbelly for me of never liking the Knicks and never understanding the love affair with them. But this concept of, oh, let's make fun of the Nets because the Warrior fans were there, they were loud, and then the same shit happens, but it's the reverse. It's we're prideful, we know good basketball. It's just hypocritical.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like I said, most of our fans were in health and safety protocols. That's why they weren't there. But in all honesty, yes, it was a disgrace. It was but the Warriors are a fair weather type team where you had obviously a lot of their they picked up obviously a national fan base when they had their run. They're obviously a likable team so therefore they represent when they come in. So
yeah,
but how often? But I will say this: how often does that happen at the Garden? Obviously, that was a huge special moment. Whereas at the Clays, you have.
I'm not a huge the Clays guy. Don't worry about
thank you. I hate that also.
I don't know if I hate it, but I'm not using it. I'll say that.
Thank you. The Clays is on par with Bing Bong.
I don't know if it was different because
in terms of my hatred.
Okay, I gotcha.
I think I hate Bing Bong more.
Yeah, I would hate Bing Bong too. I mean, it is. It became a cult thing because of how well the Knicks were playing early on, and it jumped on, caught on, and in retrospect, now it feels like it was such a long time ago when the Knicks were 5-1, and now they've pivoted to 12-16, and with just the atrocious play that we have seen, Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker signings. I mean, that's like. We're entering this is not going to be as bad as this, but it feels like the Bobby Bonilla of bad signings, where it's just these guys are giving no production, and they are now a black hole of salary cap dump money that's not going to go away. It's bad,
right? Well, I will say this: in theory, it obviously should have worked. And you know what? I was talking to my brother earlier about Fournier. And he, sadly, it's going to go down in infamy where it's like you're going to look at a Bleacher Report slideshow of, the 20 worst signings in New York sports history. You're going to go through it and you're going to see, whatever it is, Evan Fournier. But I don't understand. The guy has a track record of success in the NBA at the NBA level in his various spots, Denver, Orlando, even with the Celtics last year. Obviously, he's a flawed player, but he still has the ability to score and perform.
Sure.
I've been saying this in the spaces recently. I think this all goes back to Julius Randle. I've been very adamant about this, and Alex, I know is very pro Julius, and he's been defending him all the way, and that's his prerogative. I see it, man. I see the light with Julius Randle. I think he's the problem. I think that's why, that I just don't think people can coexist with his style of play, and that's my knock on Fournier. So I just think Fournier at this point is just it's mental at this point. He's probably so miserable. I don't know what they could do with him at this point. I almost think I hate when people are like, you can't put him on the bench, it destroys his stock. I think him shooting 1 for 6 and doing absolutely nothing is making his stock even worse. If you were to go to the bench right now and let's say maybe you can get his confidence back and then you could reinsert him back into the lineup. I mean, these things are very fluid, obviously. The lineup does not, once you're out, you can never go back in. That's for that. As for Kemba, I think obviously it was a roll of the dice. They got him for $8 million per year. In theory, it sounded great. It was an upgrade over Elfrid Payton from an offensive standpoint, but sadly, he's a shell of who he was physically. But I disagree with how he had to be just completely dropped from the rotation all the way. Now, I feel like before I came on tonight's exclusive interview with you, which is going to do huge ratings, you watch, I guarantee it. But I feel like you've been dying for months to throw this in my face about Patty Mills versus Kemba Walker. Now, we'll say this. Obviously, Patty Mills has been amazing for you guys. A little streaky.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you.
Different guys around him.
Different guys around him, but also, at the end of the day, if you were like, well, the Knicks should have signed Patty Mills. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying you in general.
Yeah.
He's not a point guard. And I was listening to your podcast with Evan, and you guys were talking about that. He's not a point guard. He's a shooting guard. So if you think about it, if you almost put Kemba Walker on the Nets, I'm not saying he's starting alongside James Harden, but he could be, I still think Kemba Walker could be offense off the bench, 12 minutes, he can give you some points and stuff like that. And he can catch lightning in a bottle every now and then where, he goes off with the second unit. But to be, I don't know. So that's my whole spiel about Kemba Walker.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I do remember the thing about Patty. And Patty Mills for the Nets has been awesome. But you're right. It's a totally different situation for a lot of factors. Patty Mills is not being asked to he's being asked to be a secondary scorer to help spread the floor. And he's a veteran guy and he can make big shots. And he's been awesome. He's been very streaky. But when you get good Patty Mills, like you did last night in the game versus the Raptors, where he goes for 30, he's hitting shots. He brings energy. He's fantastic. Now, if he's on the Knicks, I would say he's an upgrade from Kemba Walker, but you're then taking minutes away from quickly. You're then having that different conversation. But I mean, from a bargain standpoint, like I'd rather have Patty Mills than Evan Fournier right now.
What are they paying Mills?
Nothing. It's like 2 years, 10. I mean, it's a bargain. It's a very good deal.
That's almost as good of a bargain deal as like buying tickets to go to a Nets game at the Clays.
I mean,
you can get 2 tickets for like $20.
I don't know what I've never bought a ticket there, to be honest. I don't even know the answer. I will say it's fascinating though, because like last night, that arena was rocking, and it was loud there. And there's this,
it was good energy. I'll be honest, I didn't watch the game.
It was great. It was it was loud energy, and it was a very unique game. And the idea that you had
the JV played. Yeah, the JV played with Durant, and you guys obviously you beat a competent opponent in the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, so I watched that game and I said I don't want to see Toronto in the first round. I mean, that's the kind of vibe I was getting where. And you have a guy like Van Vliet, and I'll bring him up because I remember the Knicks 2 years ago had the opportunity to try to sign him. Well, I mean, would you trade Kemba and Fournier for Van Vliet?
Would I? Absolutely.
Right, and their salaries probably match. But the point is, the Knicks they never addressed the point guard situation.
Well, I don't think Van Vliet took a meeting with them. That's what happened. I think they wanted to I think they were interested in him, but I think he wasn't interested in meeting with them, and I think also they were a little hesitant on the money that he was commanding. I think it was like a 4-year, $80-something million contract.
But I know Fournier he's gonna first of all, Fournier is gonna play better. He's not this bad. Or if he's just totally shot in New York, I don't know, which is weird because the first game of the season, when he's going out and he's playing like he's, Reggie Miller at the Garden, has got the whole crowd into it. It was like, I mean, the love fest there. To see the 180 with him is just remarkable. But if I don't think we saw Fournier being this pathetic so far. But just looking at if you're looking from a management standpoint at the deals that this team made. The Knicks had the most money in the offseason, Dolan, and they signed Noel back. They signed Rose back, who's been good, and then they gave contracts to Fournier and Kemba. That's how they spent a massive amount of money. That's a terrible job.
Well, yeah, what they wanted to do was with the amount of we don't call it salary cap space force for nothing, but with the amount of cap space we had. They were basically doubling down on keeping continuity. So that's what they were hoping to build upon, and that's why you had Noel, Burks, Rose all brought back, and then then they obviously brought in Fournier and Kemba. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like it's and on top of that, with the backcourt, obviously like Kemba being a shell of who he was, Fournier struggling mightily, and then on top of that you have Noel, who's been injured. Hasn't really been healthy. It's just like, you look at their starting lineup. It's really been a perfect storm. So
it's wild that a team last year that won on chemistry, that won on grit, and that won on outplaying you now has none of that. They've lost all their identity in a couple of months is strange. I mean, when you lose your identity, when you have continuity, it makes no sense. And what you and I were talking about the other day with that point I made in the space about Reggie Bullock, like if they had re-signed Reggie Bullock, let's say to a similar, I'm not saying the similar deal what Fournier was making, but similar to whatever, if they brought him back, right?
How much is he moving the needle? Because he had a great year last year. So what if he had regressed to 7 points per game on 36% shooting? So and then they would have been mocked for it. They didn't do anything. That clearly they overachieved last year, and now you're bringing the band back, and now obviously the league caught up with them. I don't know. It's a big mess, and I'm telling you, it all goes back to number 30, Julius Randle.
So you think there's issues with him in the locker room with his teammates when you say goes back? Do you think there's something
I don't know.
like why
I don't
is
know.
I mean, why if you tell me I see the hype on this guy because he's electric and he plays well and he brings a spark. Obi Toppin has to play more than 15 minutes. You can't. Your second year forward that was a top 8 pick or whatever is not playing more than 15 to 18 minutes.
And I'll tell you
That's
what,
ridiculous. I don't care. That's ridiculous.
The guy who's standing behind you right now, Obi brings the same type of energy and ferocity as the guy who's behind you right now. You see the guy behind you?
I do. I get that notion because I'm like, I think Obi on the Nets right now would be great. And I don't let's not make Kenyon comparisons. Just because
no, offensively. I mean, think about what Kenyon was offensively. He was Kid's lob threat. Like Kid would, Kid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is what Obi reminds me of in a way, because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. It sounds like a ridiculous comparison, but you hear me out. And you're like close to my age, so you'll remember the time frame. So when Randy Moss was on the Minnesota Vikings, he would just streak down the field, and the minute he felt like he had a step on his defender, he would put his hand up in the air, and that would give the cue to whoever it was, right. Jeff George, Randall Cunningham, Dante Culpepper, just to launch it, and he would just outrun or outjump whoever. And when you watch Obi play, someone I think it was Rob Perez said recently that Obi is like the guy in the basketball court it's like playing a video game and you're holding down the turbo button the whole time, but he sprints down the court, he gets past everyone, and you see it happen in real time, and he puts his hand up like the way Moss does, and he gets the alley-oop or he gets that outlet, and it's just, it always ends in the dunk. So where was I going with this? But do you hear what I'm saying with Obi? Yeah. He's just, the athleticism is off the charts. So
Rob Perez is one of those guys. He likes to make fun of the Nets. What's that about?
I don't know. I'm not too familiar with him.
All he does is rip the Nets. I don't know. Just,
I see his memes and stuff like that show up, or his gifts show up every now and then on my timeline. So
you can tell I get a little angry about that stuff.
Yes.
You know that. I mean, you used to feel that way maybe until you switched allegiances and switched your teams over. But to get Obi Toppin 15 minutes a game seems like a joke. And he's like, okay, well, we got Randall and we can't mix them together because of our defense and how things are going to work. Your team's losing every game. Maybe try it. And I don't want to be I'm not the Knicks fan here, but I don't think I know more than the coaching staff. And obviously I'm not like that guy. Oh, put him in. You're an idiot. But at some point, it's if you're picked 8th in the draft, and you feel a guy coming on, wouldn't you play him? Like, what am I missing?
Here's about that originally they drafted him, I think, with the intent, they were never planning on keeping Julius Randle. And like I said, this happened last year. Yeah. Julius Randle has this unbelievable all second team NBA performance. And then it's like, it's almost like you think of it at a time, like it's a good problem to have, but in a way it's
right.
It is a problem. So, I'm fully on board, like going with the small ball lineup. If they're gonna obviously have the two of them. So I mean, and whenever I hear like, oh, Obi can't defend as well, like, or that's why Tibbs pulls him. That guy is so so energetic. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like he can get out to the perimeter better to contest those threes. It's like the problem is like when you have Mitch or Noel, it's like I don't know. That's my whole point. I feel like Obi can make things happen just because he's so active, and everyone feeds off of his energy.
I did enjoy you in the spaces. I like that. I went into a Knicks Spaces, and I had a lot of Knick fans of the Bad Weather Fans podcast DM me like, "What the fuck are you doing here?"
Yeah, I called you out at the end of it. I said there was an anti-fan in the in our space. And that was the one who was hosting. Was that the one Danny V was hosting?
Yeah. What did they say? Did they even know what you were referencing? Like, because I had to leave because I had to pop out.
Right. I don't know.
It was fun. I loved that Knicks Spaces, and I definitely wanted to go in there to enjoy how bad they're playing. And my favorite thing in the spaces were Knick fans debating, would they rather have a Miles Turner or Sabonis? And my favorite part of all this was like, oh, we can get both, but we can't trade any of our good players or our assets. I just want to make sure that Knick fans understand how trades work, that if you want to, like when the Nets got James Harden, they gave up a lot. They gave up 3 first-round picks. They gave up Jared Allen, who's going to be an all-star this year, and Karis LeVert, who has underachieved, but they gave up players and they gave up picks. And I'm not saying that Sabonis
Right, but that's
Turner,
what happened. But that's what happened in the reality. Now, I don't know when Spaces debuted on Twitter, but let's think before the trade happened and there was a Nets Twitter space. Dude, these spaces, it's like unregulated sports talk radio.
Yeah, it really is. It fascinates me.
Yeah, so think
fascinates me.
I mean, think about someone called up Francesa back in the day, whoever, and threw out a ridiculous trade. Mocked them, hang up on them.
The trade scenarios are the funniest. Like, yeah,
right, but what would people say when people are making these trade ideas, like no one knows like the salary cap implications and all the other stuff. Right. And obviously no one wants to ever give up anything of value.
But what are the Pacers' incentive if they're going to give up Sabonis? You know what? We'll take Derrick Rose. Like they're going to want young players and picks that they can build their franchise around. And Sabonis is going to go to a contender and he's going to warrant a lot. Like that guy's going to get a lot in return. There's going to be a team like
a fantastic player,
like a Chicago or maybe like Golden State, Phoenix or a Golden. Yeah, one of those teams that could use that player, and they're going to get a ton back. So I don't think it's as simple as I don't know if we want Turner because we have to give up quickly. You're going to have to give up quickly, top it in picks. That's how it's going to work. It's not this, it blows my mind. Anyway, so the Nets did win at the Barclays Center, 20-8. Kevin Durant has been on an incredible tear, 51 points, then has the triple-double. And it was fun to see that game because the Nets were playing with younger players. And it is kind of cool when you're like, Kessler, Thomas, Sharp, and then David Duke Jr. I mean, these guys were incredible without any experience. And it just goes to the leadership that Kevin Durant provides. And he has been on one of those tears where I had Curry as the MVP earlier in the season. It feels as if Durant's now closed that gap where you might even want to give it to him because of how well he's played with all these net issue injuries and COVID bullshit going on.
Yeah, I mean, you can 100% make the case that he's an MVP, especially with, with the whole Kyrie drama and what do you call it? And Harden obviously being so up and down, and obviously there's been so many unknowns with this year. So he's been obviously the glue, and it's been holding it all together. So
is it painful for you? I know last year, is it painful for you to see the Nets good?
No, not at all.
You don't care anymore. Like they're 20-8. It doesn't. You've disassociated with to you. The Nets are basically the Raptors or the Sixers or the Celtics. No,
they're not the Raptors or Sixers. I mean, I don't want to see them. I mean, if they're playing Milwaukee, you know who I'm rooting for. If they're playing Philadelphia, you know who I'm rooting for. But am I watching them getting upset? I mean, no.
Not so. You were before.
Joe Tsai and I, we had a meeting recently, so he and I got along well. Yeah. So
how was that?
It was a fun experience. So, his people, they wanted to meet me. He's a big fan of the work I do, and who can blame him? And Nets Daily invited me to go to the game with him. So at halftime, we went down to the suite and we met the president or the governor, wherever the politically correct term is. So yeah, it was a fun experience.
What are those conversations like when you're like, yeah, I'm the guy that runs this account? Yeah. I mean, what is that like? Like, what do you guys talk about?
No, he was like laughing and he said, he said he's a huge fan of my work and the work. He said he's a huge fan of mine. He was hyping me up to his friends in the suite, and he basically said we could hang out in the suite till the end of the game. So that was really cool.
Did you get into how you used to be a Nets fan and like how it shifted?
No, I didn't talk to him about that.
See that?
His spokesperson, I kind of told her the deal.
Yeah.
So she was the one that initiated the whole thing.
Do you think if the Nets won a title, I mean, that'd be a little painful?
Nah.
Knowing that you used to be a fan, how could that not be?
That was the New Jersey Nets with different logo in the background. It's this is like I got divorced. This is good for my ex-wife.
So I guess the Brooklyn part does change that. I mean, I feel you on that part.
Yeah.
Do you like the retro court? No, because
it's just I find it comical. Yes, it looks cool, of course, but it's comical because they wanted not, as I said the other thing on the first episode I was on with you. It's like the movie, and coincidentally, when I put the tweet out today with the Home Alone girl, the sister, Kevin McAllister's sister, saying, "Evan, you're what the French call." I don't want to try to say it in French because I'll probably totally butcher it. But when you said, oh, Uncle Buck, but I always said the move to Brooklyn was like the movie Uncle Buck, when he's snooping around the living room when he first arrives there and he finds the wedding picture and he notices that he's been folded out of the wedding picture. You know what I'm talking about?
I do know you're talking about.
Yeah. And that's how the Nets organization, led by Brett Yormark and company, treated the New Jersey fan base. We were folded out. They wanted nothing to do with us. And now it's like, now they want us back in. Well, it's a little too late. That's my whole point. And you know what? Like my friends who were diehard Nets fans, they're too far gone. Like my old school New Jersey Nets fans. I was probably sitting in the exact same section where you and your father were sitting, you know, back in the days at the Continental Airlines Arena. Yeah, my friend had phenomenal seats. They would always take me because they knew I was the biggest Nets fan, you know, and I'm far gone, man.
No, I understand. I know you're removed from that, but I mean, do you ever think about it? You can disassociate it and think about it fondly. But did you hate the Knicks when you were young? I mean, did you hate the Knicks?
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the Knicks. And actually funny, you were talking with Alex about this last week. The only time as a kid during was when I rooted for the Knicks was the run to the finals when they were down to like Sprewell when they lost
the 99,
yeah, because it wasn't Oakley and it wasn't Starks and it wasn't those guys. It was Sprewell, Houston, Camby, and it was an undermanned team with Chris Dudley, and they were going, you know, it was a fun team. Like I remember when they took Indiana out, and then they were totally overmatched in the finals. I always liked the underdog, so yeah, that was the only time, you know. So that was the only time that I ever rooted for the Knicks.
Yeah, no, it's just so, you know, it's interesting to think of. I understand the net point of view, like I get that, but it is
weird. Yes,
but it is weird then to flip. You know, you don't hear many people that go from Met and Yankee or Giant Jet and have that kind of twist. It is unusual.
Well, I told you it was also a perfect storm. I told you that episode 2. If you want to rewatch it or re-listen to it,
yeah,
I had it falling out. I was basically told off by a high-ranking official within the Nets organization, and they told me off. And at that point, I'm like, fuck that, you know, I can curse on your podcast. So I'm like,
no, you can't.
Screw that, or
no,
beat that
can.
out. I'm like,
you listen,
yeah, I was so annoyed, so pissed off. And I'm like, at that point, I remember like watching, and this is when Lionel Hollins was coaching. I'm watching the game, and I'm like, I don't care about. I don't want to follow this.
And the team sucked.
Yeah, and I just didn't care, and I was, and then the following year, same thing. This is when they had like Thomas Robinson, and they brought all those guys in there. It was like Joe Johnson's last year, and I'm like, once again, I did not care. I just couldn't get into it anymore. It was like the analogy I have is like picture going to your favorite restaurant for 25 years, and then the new owner's like basically says like tells you to go F off. It's like you're not gonna want to go there. And at that point, like a few months later, Charles Oakley is getting himself thrown out of the Garden. The flux capacitor moment happens where I get the idea for Dolan J. Trump. I start watching Knicks games. I get radicalized by social media, and the rest is history.
Yeah, now you get to root for the 12 and 16 Knicks. Has it been going from last year with all the highs and how awesome the account was with everything go? Let me phrase it this way. For you, when you're running the account and you're putting out incredible content, it's very funny. Do you find when they're losing, it's easier then because of this to put out the content based on how the account kind of works?
I honestly, there's always a way to keep it going. Like even right now, like they're losing. So, I mean, what's my playbook when they're losing right now? Right now, Evan Fournier is like my big punching bag. Same with Julius Randle. Like France is now my China in this universe where I'm attacking them. I mean, I'm about to declare war at this point. What else? You have just the whole weed the garden mentality is now coming back. So and make the Knicks great again. Make Knicks great again.
All right, one last question about you, and then we'll slide back into sports. Have you ever been to a game and someone like came over and asked for a selfie?
No, because no one knows who I am. However, when I was at the playoff game, I was going up the escalator and I'm wearing my hat, and this guy turns around, looks at me, he's just like, I told that guy he should have made those hats and fitted. I'm like, who? He's like, the guy who made those hats. I'm like, Dolan? I'm like, Dolan J? He goes, yeah, Dolan J. I'm like, I put my hand, and then he turned away, and I put my hand on his shoulder. I go, hey, buddy, let me tell you something. I'm Dolan J. Trump. He's like, no, you're not. Anyone can say that. And then he goes, how are you going to prove it to me? I took my phone out and showed it to him, and he was very excited. So hopefully he's listening to this episode. Yeah. But I've met people. It's funny. I've met people where even in my current job, I was talking this guy's a huge Knicks fan. I'm talking to him, and then we're somehow we're talking about like what's on Twitter, blah blah blah, and then I mentioned, he's like that's you. I'm like, yeah. So it's funny.
Yeah, no, that's good to get noticed. Get the get a little ego, right? I mean, that's healthy.
Yeah, this is I guess makes me a celebrity.
Do you have any?
No one knows about.
I think the Knicks are going to play better. I don't think they're this abysmal. I mean, obviously they're missing their best players too with everything that's happened. But
but they need to make a move. I'm telling you, and here's another thing. I'm now realistic where, it makes no point. This is what I said on Spaces the other night. Maybe it was a different space that you didn't hear.
I don't think so. Yeah.
That this is like if you're gonna now like go after, let's say, Miles Turner, you're gonna trade. I hope they would not trade Obi Toppin, but let's say they trade away. I don't know. I'm just making up 2 first-round picks, Kemba Walker, Mitchell Robinson. I'm just throwing some stuff out there.
Yeah.
And they bring in Miles Turner. It's like all you're doing is you're doubling down on a losing hand. So there's no point, in my opinion, to continue to try to build around Julius Randle. And what is it like? They're gonna get to the play-in, and then if they get to the play-in, are they gonna beat Charlotte? No. And even if they do get into the playoffs, where they're going to get embarrassed by a team like Milwaukee or Brooklyn, where then there's more of a punchline. It's just, I don't know. Whenever people are like, yeah, but that's going to ruin all the goodwill that you built last year for future free agents and superstars. I don't know. I just think of it as like, accept that this is a big problem right now and just abandon mission. I personally would hang in there a little bit longer, see what happens over these next 15, 20 games. Yeah. But like the time comes, Derrick Rose, he's a valuable piece for a contending team.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like a team like the Clippers, like I don't know what their point guard situation is right now. It was like Reggie Jackson and Eric Bledsoe. Like, I'm not saying Derrick Rose can be a starter, but he is a valuable piece. Even Alec Burks, who
I was about to say him.
Yeah, wouldn't you love a guy like you can see Alec Burks fitting in Brooklyn, like for instance,
beautifully.
Like a scorer off the like he's like Joe Johnson in a way. If you watch his game, like he is. He's like that 6'6", like he could be, he's really not a point guard, obviously, but he's he can play shooting guard, small forward. He just has like the mid, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Alex Burks. He's very cool. He's just a smooth character where, he has value. I would look even someone like Noel. I know he's hurt right now, so he looks like crap, but someone like him is also valuable to a team that needs rim protection. So I would just move those guys, try to get, even if obviously it's late first round draft picks, just get as many draft assets as possible. So then at the time being, like the time comes, it's like, okay, now we're gonna trade you Julius Randle and I don't know, 2 first round or 3 I'm just spitballing ideas.
No, I get it.
But just abandon this plan, and then at the time comes, they really can't trade until February or maybe next offseason. I would look to try to move Julius Randle at all costs and just try to go forward with Obi as
What's so funny to me is when he signed, and we're in the moment here, so things can always change. But when he had signed his extension, it was what a bargain. They're getting him at a good rate, a good deal compared to what other stars have gotten. And now it's like, a couple months later, they're like, oh my goodness, they re-signed him for this contract. Why did they do this? And if Alex was here, he would say, well, Dolan, he scored 31 points last night. But I think the crux of it is, if he's like on the Nets and he's around Harden and Durant, and that's an extreme example, but if he's on the Bucks and he's next to Middleton and Giannis or whatever, like he'll thrive, he'll do his thing, he'll be solid. But to lead a team as the number one, it's just not working.
Here's the problem though. You say like if he was next to so-and-so, I don't think he can coexist with those other guys because he wants the ball in his hands. Watch him play. I'm sure a lot of it is because of that's what Tibbs wants, but the guy wants the ball in his hands, and I just can't see, even if they were to hypothetically, let's say that tomorrow they make a huge blockbuster deal. It's RJ Barrett, 3 first-round draft picks quickly and so on, and they get Damian Lillard. At the end of the day, I don't even think he can coexist with someone like Damian Lillard. I don't think I think the way he plays basketball, it's like I think he thinks he's a LeBron James. Like he looks in the mirror and sees like he's this dominant player. And in terms of the money, it's not like at the end of the day, when you really think about it, like, yes, you are getting a productive player on in terms of stats, but I don't even care what the money is. I just don't think you can win anything real with him. And getting back to football for a second with the Vikings, as a Vikings fan, Kirk Cousins is this maddening player. You look at the box score though, and you see, all right, he threw for 280 yards, had 3 touchdowns, no picks, but he has a QB rating of like whatever 120. He sucks. Sorry, I'm dropping inappropriate language on your show.
Is Julius
But
Randle and Kirk Cousins the same player?
But when I hear Alex, I hope you're having a great time. I hope you take my advice in where you go to in Maui, because I've gave you some great places. But when I hear
places, I got to. Can I start?
Places?
I'll ask you later. That's remember that.
Got it. But anyways, what was I saying?
I don't know. I screwed you up. I interrupted you. We were talking about Randall, Kirk Cousins, and the whole connection.
So at the end of the day, like Kirk Cousins, yes, Kirk Cousins makes I think like the second or third highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and like the stats look good. He is not a winning player. He shrivels up in the big moment, and that's the problem with Randall. You get the 30 points, every now and then. But let's say he played 30. Let's say last night was a close game and went down to the last 3 minutes of the game, and Randall has the 30-point, 12 rebound, 5 assist stat line. What do you think is going to happen in the last 3 minutes of that game? He's probably going to miss his shots. He's probably going to make poor decisions. He probably won't shoot well at the free throw line. He comes up small in big spots. I don't know if that's because of fatigue, because he's probably playing 40 minutes a night, or if it's a mental thing. It's the same thing with Kirk Cousins. You look at the box score, 300 yards. Kirk Cousins, wow, he's amongst all the leaders, the best. Watch him when he plays at Green Bay on a Sunday night. You will see a scared,
I know,
teeth clenching quarterback.
Do you think
that's Julius? Yes.
Do you think Knick fans got a little overhyped on his game winner in the preseason?
Maybe. I was excited, but he played amazing last year. You have to understand that. He was outstanding. But he was making every tough shot last year. He was shooting 3-pointers at like a 40% clip. He played excellent last year. I mean, but it's just, I see it now. It's like we have a large enough sample size where, the box score looks good. So, and that, in my opinion, you can find someone who would be interested in that. So he's production, but it's like you can't quote fantasy stats and box score stats because that doesn't always translate to winning.
Addie Mills,
Emmanuel quickly.
2 years, $12 million, just to make you feel even better.
That's fine. But anyway, so that's my whole spiel about Julius Randle. So, and I was looking at also like, hey, this guy's 27 years old. He's finally has good stable situation with coaching. He's coming into his own, and he is immensely talented when you think about it. He's like 6'9", but I just don't see it.
Yeah,
I'd rather move off of him. And I think and he sulks. So you see the lazy energy on defense, and you see the whole game change the minute Toppin and Quickly and those guys come in. So,
well, I saw it. I mean, in the Knick game, it's in the last couple of years, it's the same thing. It's the complaint about the refs, and it's just amazing. Like Durant in that game didn't play well. He had a bad game, and credit to Julius, he played good defense on him. But in those last 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, basically that whole fourth quarter, and it's not fair because Durant's a top 10 player in the sport of all time. But you could see just his level of confidence and cockiness in the right direction. When the Nets needed a bucket, they could go to him, and you could just see it. You could see it, you could feel it. And I'm sure as a Knicks fan, when he got the ball in his hand and he's in the post, you're just like, fuck, here it comes.
Well, the ball just sticks. He doesn't, I don't know. I just don't like how, and I've been saying like, I made this comparison a couple weeks ago where before things got really bad, but it's almost like he's like the starting pitcher in baseball who goes to the seventh inning, gets through 7 innings, and then you leave him in there for the 8th inning, and that's when he starts to get into trouble. He starts to, but the manager's loyal. Hey, he's got me this far. Let me let him pitch the 8th inning, and that's when things start to fall apart. And that's with Randle, where he brings you all the way to that 3-minute mark or in a close game, 2-minute mark, and then I don't understand why the ball is only in his hands. In my opinion, it should be in Derrick Rose's hands in crunch time in a close game. That's my take. And I don't like the self-awareness of him, the lack of self-awareness, when there's a technical foul on the court for the other team, and you have Rose, you have Fournier, you have Quickly, you have guys who can, Burks, guys who hit free throws probably at an 85% clip or higher, and Randle's the one who's taking it. I'm like, that's what I don't like either. It's the lack of self-awareness. I don't know.
Well, I Alex is going to be listening to this, and I'm sure he'll be shaking his head. Julius Randle, all NBA.
I'll never be invited back on the show. Jersey Trivia will be canceled.
This might be the last time. And we'll wrap things up.
It wouldn't be the first or the last time someone tried to cancel me, as we saw recently. This this radical coup that's going on Twitter right now, where I'm getting reported, I got suspended for a week, and so on.
Yeah, be careful. I mean, I don't
Do
know
you know
who
why
it
I got
was.
suspended?
It wasn't me.
Do you know
What's
why I got
that?
suspended? Do you know why I got suspended?
I know the tweet, but specifically.
No, that was the tweet. It was basically, for those of you that were listening that didn't know I was suspended. So when the Timberwolves came in, Brian Lewis asked D'Angelo Russell if he had any animosity towards Sean Marks and so on, and D'Angelo Russell replied back by saying, even if I did, what difference does it make? It's not like he's a player. So what I tweeted out was, obviously it was a joke, a quote tweet. I said, if I was D'Angelo Russell, I would have hit him so hard his head would spin. We know who says that quote. It's a ridiculous line. Hit him so hard his head would spin. Suspended for 1 week. So people are out to try to cancel me. And that's that.
How good of it. It is fun to see. I remember a draft night where Sean Marks took the 4 rookies and I'm like, what is he doing? And then you see something like last night. It's pretty cool.
I didn't watch last night. I can't tell you.
I'm trying to get you to talk Nets, but you won't do it. You won't do it.
No, I'll talk Nets.
I understand.
You want to talk here? You want to talk Nets? I'm going to channel my inner Mike Francesa right now. Okay, this is very Francesa. You ready?
Let's hear it.
Hold on a second. Sorry for the audio.
Are you playing? I think that's highly illegal.
No. I was trying to bring up a stat and I clicked on something. All right, here we go. This is the Mike Francesa for you. 48, 41, 38, 40, 38, 37, 40, 44, 37, 39. You know what those numbers are?
Minutes
for Kevin Durant. Does it make you nervous that this guy's playing such heavy minutes?
Yes, of course it makes me nervous. Yes.
And even Patty Mills, you wonder, what's going to happen when we get to – Patty Mills he's only 33. I thought he was older than that. But when
Does it make me nervous? Yes. Everything makes me nervous, Dolan. Everything makes me nervous.
I know. You are a nervous guy.
I am a very nervous guy, but I use it to my strengths. My neurotic behavior is what makes me me, and it's what makes this podcast successful. Yes, it makes me nervous. Of course it does. But he's fucking Kevin Durant, man. You got to roll with it.
You don't buy into these QAnon conspiracy theorists about Kyrie coming back?
This gave me a little hope. It definitely did.
He's not coming back.
It definitely did. My
sources. He's not coming back. I have very good sources within the Nets.
Are you being funny or are you being serious?
No. My sources knows people within the Nets organization.
Yeah, good, but also it's all. If I had to, my instincts say at some point he is back, but I would not feel good about that. But it's December 15th. You're telling me we know what's going to happen in March and April? I don't know. Who knows? Well, I think it's an impossible answer.
Are they going to make all of a sudden? Are they going to now? Is Joe Tsai, my friend Joe Tsai, is he going to now go against his word and of his decision? I can't imagine him all of a sudden folding like a wet rag on this.
No, I know. I'm just saying there's months to go.
I don't. In terms of the whole part-time player thing, and I don't.
I get it.
At the end, he's not getting vaccinated, so
no, I understand that.
Yeah,
you
I think it's his camp.
You lay a good case, and I would probably say I'm probably wrong, and I get that. And maybe it's probably the optimism in me wanting him to be there because this whole season, I've said this on the record, has been not that enjoyable. Like last night was one of the first few enjoyable games because I think there was no pressure. I think there's so much pressure that it's just like last night it was okay. Here we are. It's the Raptors. They're dressing 8 guys. 4 of them have probably, 3 of them have played a combined 20 minutes in the league. It is what it is. Let's see what happens. And then they go out and win. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah, but that was amazing last night for you guys.
Every game is just an enormous amount of pressure and then relief. And I'm just buying my time until they can get to the ultimate games that matter. So it's been really difficult. So yeah, I'm trying to convince myself that Kyrie's coming back because he's 29, he's dynamic, he's incredible. You add him to the team, it's a whole Kyrie on this roster, you're feeling really good about what you have, and they're really deep. But they're missing a shooter. They're missing an all-time player.
Oh, of course, yeah. Now let me ask you a serious question. I want complete honesty. I should inject you with truth serum before
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Kyrie, let's say Kyrie is still there. The pandemic never happens or he's vaccinated. Hindsight right now, do you want Jared Allen and Karis LeVert instead of James Harden?
No, you can't do that.
Really?
You're saying with Kyrie?
Yep.
So you're saying would you deal Harden for LeVert?
No, you
Allen,
let's say
Kyrie?
let's say that trade never happened. That you have the way Jared Allen has just blossomed into, is he the best center in the East? I mean, I'm just
He's
throwing
up
that out
there
there right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you have him and if Karis LeVert is like the third, he's basically leading the second unit, the way he was in the beginning of last season when he was coming off of the bench. In a way, it's kind of superfluous. Like I understand why they wanted the third superstar in case someone got hurt, but in a way, it's like I don't know. I really think that they. I almost think you guys would be better off with those guys.
I think the ceiling.
Only because Allen is so good.
The ceiling for Harden, though, at his best,
of course,
is so good that when it clicks, there's nothing that can stop them. If Durant and Harden are clicking together, and it's been a couple of games, they're unstoppable. And because of that, I get you. And you're in this fantasy world, you're bringing Kyrie back. I cannot lose Harden at this point. And you have to remember too, like the way the roster is constructed, if they're doing that with Allen and LeVert, is Patty Mills here? Is LaMarcus Aldridge here? So it's a little, then you're getting into a world where it's like, well, I got to get rid of Aldridge. I got to get rid of Patty Mills. Nick Claxton doesn't get the run. I mean, it changes a little bit. Maybe if you're saying we could have everything, sure. But based on their roster right now and the way things are going, I'd have to keep James Harden. I'd have to roll with him. I'm in that camp. I'm in the Harden camp. I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to see him and Durant lead this Nets team to an NBA championship. I've never seen the Nets win a title. They've never won a title, but I've seen it close. I've seen it close once. Not really. I'll say once. It's a good question though. I posed that to somebody else the other day too. So you're in my brain. That's a good question.
Got it. All right. Let me answer this. No, let's say Kyrie declared he's not getting the vaccine. He's not coming back to Brooklyn this year. He's out for the rest of the year. He retires, let's say. Okay. You go into this playoffs with, it's obviously so much is going to change right now, but what's your overall confidence level? 1 through 5, 5 being the most confidence, 1 being no confidence at all, 0 confidence against Milwaukee.
I'm not confident at all versus the Bucks. Not yet.
Yeah.
I have to see the Nets play the Bucks. I have to see the new Nets play the Bucks. Opening night, you can't really count.
Right, so much changes.
It counts, but things are so different.
Dude, Evan Fournier was dropping 32 on opening night.
Right. So it's so
now
different.
He's in the NBA. Now he's in the G League.
I think
what about the Bulls?
I said the Bulls. I'm not the Bulls. I'm going to be worried about all of these, and my neurotic level. But it's the Bucks. I know it's the Bucks. It's the Bucks. It's the Bucks. Yeah. It's the Bucks because they've got an MVP in Giannis, and they've got the most underrated player I think in the last 10 years in Chris Middleton. He is a fucking beast. He gets it, man.
And
he is
how about this guy?
Great player.
And this guy is better than your boy, Pat Connaughton, former Net draft pick. Did you know that?
Who's my boy? Joe
Harris.
Is he better? But
they're similar. They're like in the same prototype. I like Pat Connaughton. I'm not saying that because I'm not just saying that because I'm trying to get under your skin. That Bucks team, and whenever Nets fans, and I listen to you and Evan, I support your podcast. I also listen to another one. I listen to Eves, his podcast as well, just because I want to hear what he has to say. You know who Eves is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't followed me anymore. I don't understand him.
I went to a Net game with him last month.
Yeah, I've known him for years when I used to be We Must Be Nets. But anyways, with what do you call it? What was I saying? I just lost my train of thought. Oh, whenever I hear people talk like on any of these podcasts, people like, oh, like, or even just Nets Twitter in general, like, oh, like we're better than the Bucks. The Bucks only won because we're hurt. Like, do not discount like what that title run did for the Bucks last year.
I agree.
They had to clear a mental hurdle.
I agree.
Yeah, and they did. Think about how many times they came up short in the playoffs before that. And, when they lost by 50 points in game 2, right? It wasn't like a 50-point loss or they were down by 50 at one point.
It was ridiculous.
That doesn't happen because of talent. That happens because they were soft mentally. Now, obviously, they caught a break when they, with Harden being limited and obviously all that other – right, and Kyrie. But, This is, I think they are a force to reckon with the playoffs will be outstanding, those series when they face each other. So
I agree with you. I agree with you on both of it. Like, I think if Irving and Harden are healthy, the Nets beat the Bucks last year. I think that's a fact. I do. But I also think that's last year's team,
right.
And the Nets are different. And like, this is a different because of what happened with the Bucks title going into this year. I feel none of that confidence that I had. I mean, I feel nervous as all hell. I mean, I would feel very scared because now I think it's a mental side for the Nets. Can they beat the Bucks? And they're going to have to go through it on their end and their mentality to get through them. I mean, like, if you're a Net fan and you're watching the Bucks Heat play in the second round, you're like, PJ Tucker, used to hate you. Now I love you. Go out and get Giannis. Get some stops. Let's get it done. It would change my mindset very fast. And it brings it back to the beginning. And I understand this. And Knicks fans listen to this be going, you spoiled brat. The regular season is a waste of time. It's just about getting reps and getting better. But all these games, I'll remember last night's game, but we'll forget, the Magic win or the Bulls loss, all of it. It won't matter until, all right, it's Nets Hawks first game. Nets down 7 going to the second quarter. Who the fuck cares what happens?
Right. I will say this, though. The Bulls are really impressive. And I think the Nets should be worried about the Bulls because they have the firepower to go with the Nets toe to toe. When you look at DeRozan and Levine, and I know he hasn't played well this year, but he is a net killer in Vucevic.
Yeah, no, I hear you. No, they're good. But
Caruso is a winning type player for a playoff team, and obviously Alonzo Ball. Like, that's a very interesting team. And I think they're going to be active possibly in the trade market. So
they should look for people. They should look for people. The deadline will change everything.
Do you know how Pat Connaughton was linked? Do you know who the Nets traded Pat Connaughton to?
I have no idea. Wow.
Even Nets Daily knows this.
Why is it even like, does he not know much?
No. He knows this. No, because I put you I'm putting you amongst the highest ranking people within the Nets fan base in terms of knowledge.
I'm probably 7. I think I'm 17th according to the latest rankings that came out.
I don't know. You have, even though I'm not affiliated with the Nets anymore, but in terms of like historical Nets knowledge, myself, I put you up there. But Bob Windrum knows so much. I mean, that's Nets Daily, and then I don't know. I've never spoken with him, but I'm assuming Evan Roberts up there. Pat Connaughton. Drafted by the Nets, traded alongside Mason Plumlee. Do you know which team?
I'm
putting you on the spot.
Was this you've
been doing better with Jersey trivia.
I know. It's also, to be fair, it's 10:30 at night. I took care of a 15-month-old all day. So
that's true. I get it. Anyways, he was packaged up with Mason Plumlee to Portland.
I knew
Rondae Hollis Jefferson and Steve Blake, who they never happened. I was very excited for that because I went to the University of Maryland, and Steve Blake was there when I was there when we won the national championship. So
Connaughton. Yeah. I do think there is something to this, and this is a little bit of the Miles Turner love. He kills the Knicks.
Connaughton?
Yeah, he kills
the Nets. He was amazing last year in the playoffs.
He was, but I think there's a bias there of seeing him when he beats your team. That like here's another one. Here's one the Knicks fans will be like, this guy's the best player in the NBA. His name's Terrence Ross. Like, there's a bias because you've seen him disrupt your team. So is he better than Joe Harris or not? I don't know. I think Joe in the system, spreading the floor, does an amazing job. Is Connaughton more athletic? Yes. Can he get to the rim a little bit better? Yes. But am I gonna make the swap for Joe? Absolutely not.
All right, we'll see in the playoffs. That's why they play the games.
Fuck, I hope not. All right, this has been Bad Weather Fans, episode number 95. Do we have Jersey trivia this week? Sponsored by you. Buy your merch. What's your Twitter handle? Do people? Everybody listening knows, so I'm wasting my time. But what is it?
Right, everyone knows it's obviously Dolan_J_Trump, and the official merchandise store is DolanJTrump.com. So some merchandise though is no longer there. Some of the big sellers that people were very excited about, unfortunately. Can no longer exist.
You keep the merch like in your bathroom? Where do you store it?
No, there's print on demand.
Oh, come on. It's in your house. It's somewhere in your bathroom. It's like in your sink or something.
No.
I don't buy it.
You can't do that with shirts. You have too much variability. You have double XL, too much. But check it out, guys. All orders, free shipping, and the products are all the t-shirts are American Apparel cotton. I'm telling you, usually when people give out like the Gildan brand t-shirts, that's like sandpaper. These are the most comfortable t-shirts you will ever wear. I only make good products, so you won't be disappointed. And same thing with the masks. You got the Omicron variant out. You got to keep yourself safe. My 3D triple layer mask is the most comfortable mask you will ever wear. Weed the Garden. We're now doing the Dr. Burks, not Dr. Burks from the CDC, Alec Burks. 3-pack, $18. You obviously know the significance of the number. DolanJTrump.com. Call now. Representatives are standing by.
I don't have much information because I didn't do your kind of research, but I'm going to give you a jersey number trivia. All right.
Go ahead.
I'm doing this on the fly, so I'm looking up on my phone. So I don't really have all the details, but I'll try my best. All right. We're going to go with the Nets because that's, more of your team. Problem is I can't find his number, which is giving me a pain in the ass. Okay. He had 3 different numbers. I don't know which one he was on the Nets, but it was 10, 3, and 24. He played for the Nets from 07 to 08.
07 to 08, but you're not telling me the number.
I gave you 3 numbers.
But you don't know which one it is. He wore
Correct.
all 3 numbers. He wore all 3 numbers while a member of the Net.
No, just during his NBA career, but I don't know which one it was.
This is too big.
Yeah, well, if you're the best, you'll figure it out.
You make fun of my clues. At least my clues make sense. You're like,
I'm doing this on the fly. All right, he was the most improved player in 1999.
I don't know.
He also won the 6th Man of the Year in 1999.
No clue.
He went to which college? He went to he's probably most famous for being on the Mavericks. And he won a championship in 2010, 2011.
All right. Wait a minute. And wouldn't give me the numbers again?
10, 3, 24. He went to Fayetteville State.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if you went to Oklahoma, I was going to say Eduardo Nahara.
You know what? He's best known for his best years were with the Magic. These are terrible clues. These are terrible clues.
Yeah, I do a much better job. I don't know.
He was born on June 22nd.
No clue.
1968. He's
but
53.
One thing I want to say about my clues when we resume this when Alex is back from his honeymoon.
His middle name is Eugene.
But there is always a reason so when I say in my clues, he averaged 8 points and 5 assists. That's a clue right there that he's a point guard.
I know.
But Alex doesn't know that. Alex always gets all upset. He's just like, "You're giving me the worst clues." Like, what do you want me to say? Like, I'm going to stop saying which college. I'm going to say he played in the Big East because it's too obvious in the NBA. If I say this player played for North Carolina, whatever, and he played for that, you're going to be able to figure it out.
He participated in the 1996 Slam Dunk Contest.
96 Slam Dunk Contest?
Yes. He was traded by the Hornets here. All right, here's a clue you'd give. He was traded by the Hornets to Dallas in exchange for Dan Dickau and a 2nd-round pick in December of 2004.
But wait, what's traded for Dan Dickau? But Dan Dickau was never on the Nets.
No, I'm talking about the trade from Dallas to the other team he was on, which was the Hornets. I'm giving such bad clues, I'll give up. It's Darryl Armstrong.
Darryl Armstrong. Oh, yeah, Orlando. That's right, number 10. He was in the slam dunk contest? He was a little guy.
I guess so. Well, that was a impromptu Dolan J. Trump trivia, but I wanted to see if I could get you. I did. You're 0 for 1. It's hard on the spot, though. You got to look. You felt the pressure.
Yep. Yeah. And I will say, you guys, this is a huge commitment doing the nighttime. I feel like I was staying up for a West Coast game before we were podcasting. So
the scary thing is
at 9 o'clock, I'm like, what? I'm like 9 o'clock. I'm like, all I want to do is go to sleep right now because I got the 6 a.m. wake up. So
I know.
It was fun. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're not leaving quite yet. I got to do my whole goodbye. You're just dipping. You really got to go to bed that bad. This is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 95. Thank you, Dolan J. Trump, for coming on the podcast, filling in for Alex. Guys, don't forget, we're going to have some celebrity fill-ins in the next couple of weeks as Alex is hanging and enjoying Hawaii after getting married and enjoying all of that stuff. Hopefully, when he comes back, the Knicks are still even worse, and there'll be 12-24. That would be, as Dolan would say, tremendous. Dolan J. Trump, thanks for coming on Bad Weather Fans and hanging out.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Yes.